Hi there, Titans. My name is Paige, and today I'm going to show you how you can set up an action that will save the data and fields that your users are using or submitting to their local storage so that they can come back to the form at another time and still see the data that they've been submitting. So let me show you an example for this. In this example, my users will be creating an account. So let's create an account real quick. Okay, account type, and I'll select this. And so say they want to be able to save the data and then come back within a certain time frame and still see the data. So let's say store data, and then when we refresh it, this data is still present. And then we can also invalidate it so that whenever they come back, just like any time that this page is refreshed, this form comes back and the fields are not filled. So this is a really great way to kind of save the data that they have been submitted to the local cache, and then they can restore that data if it were to be shut down, or I don't know, if they would have left the browser for some reason and came back. So let me show you how you can set this up. I'll start by just deleting everything that I have done on my own so we can walk through this together. Cool. All right. So these actions to save to the local storage, they can be done on any button or any condition. Anytime you're able to assign an action, you can assign this action. So you can get really creative with where this action takes place. You can have it take place on the next buttons, or when they go to a new page, on page load, whatever you'd like. So I would really think about how you want this interactivity to take effect in your users' environments so that they can save the information just in case it ever were to crash, or they exit out and come back. I would not say it's the same as like saving this as a draft, but it is a good way to just ensure that their data is saved to some capacity. So let's show you how you do this. I'm going to just do it by using buttons so that we can see it happen. So this one, I'll call this one this will be the store data. So the way that I did this was I'm going to go to the plus sign. It's going to be a system action, and then you can choose local storage. This is where you choose whether it's store, restore, or invalidate. This one's going to be store. So that's the initial saving of this data. So this is where we decide how long is it valid for a certain amount of hours. You can make it be 13, 3, 1, 24, etc. I don't think that there's a limit to this, but there may be. So I'm just going to choose 1 because that's as far as I need it to be for this example. And this is where we decide what values will be saved. So you can choose to save an entire page if you want, so you can see the different pages, or some parameters that could be connected to those pages. You can do a certain field. You can do a field group if you have field groups, and then you can do the entire project as well. So I'm going to choose my home page, and let's call it store to local storage. Nice. And then I'm going to change the button name to store to local storage. And let me just change the color here too, just so that we can see it a little better. Perfect. So this button only holds the action to store to local storage. Now I'm going to do one that's going to restore the data. So in my original example, this action was saved on the page load, so that every time the page loaded, it would restore the data that may or may not have been saved. So let's call this restore data from local storage. Nice. And then let's configure that on click action. We are going to do system action, local storage, and then instead of store, I'm going to choose restore. And this is restoring the data on the page, on the home page, that may or may not have been saved before. Restore data from local storage. Nice. Okay, lovely. And now the other button that I'm going to do, the other action that is within this local storage component, is the invalidate the data. So let me just copy this and create a new button. I will call it invalidate data on local storage. And this on-click action will be the last action under the local storage component. It's going to be invalidate, and this removes that saved data on the local storage. So I'm going to again choose page, home page, next. Awesome. Insert, apply, save. And now let's preview this again with these new actions. So initially, every time, it's standard that every time this page loads, no data is filled unless you have performed some type of get or action on the page load to make that happen. So let's say we, refresh again, nothing's going to be here. And let's call it Cat's Company. And if I do not save it, we'll refresh it and Cat's Company will not be there. So Cat's Company Inc. Now I'm going to save, let's go ahead and fill out some of this information, save to local storage. And when I refresh this, again, it's not going to be here because that action has not happened yet. This time I put the action on this button, but previously I put it on the page load. So I imagine that in most scenarios you would probably restore the data on page load. So now I click restore and you can see the information that was filled out within the past hour by this this certain device. All right, so that is how you store and then restore the data, and we can see us doing it over and over again. We'll restore the data, there it is. So as long as I am back on the page within that time frame that we set up on the storage component, which I did 1 hour, then this data will be able to be restored. And then invalidate is removing that save. It doesn't remove the data here, but it does remove it from being able to be restored. So whenever I refresh it, it's not here, and then I'm going to click restore data. It's still not there because I've already invalidated it. So it's no longer saved on this local storage. So that is how it's done. Feel free to use these actions to really secure the data and the processes that your users are going through, especially for those long forms. It would really stink if something happened and they're unable to get back to the progress that they have made on the forms. So thank you for watching, and I hope that this video helped.